going to talk about getting the arm of a figure to move. So I'll just explain a few things to you here. This little fellow I've got here now, I'm going to have him as a brakeman to be able to tell the engineer to stop. And I've got his other arm over the back there, which he's got to raise up high to say stop, it's coupled up. Going through his back here, I'm using a 25 thou wire there. It's a big figure. This is O-scale. I'm using a 24 thou nickel silver on this one, and this vertical one is a 17 thou nickel silver. To get these pieces inside here, what I've done, first thing is I put the wire through, and I just check that. So I've drilled a hole through on the end to take the wire, and then that goes straight through. Now I've got to be careful that I drill straight through that way and get right into the centre of his arm this side and his arm this side. So you get that way and that way. So you've got to go at right angles to get that drill perfectly true. So you run a 17 thou or 18 thou drill through there. I'm using 25 thou drill through. The next thing I'm using there, I'm using stainless steel. This is engineering stainless steel. I used some 42 thou OD stainless steel tubing, and that takes the 25 thou nicely. Engineering make a whole host of different sized stainless steel tubing, and that's just nice as a bearing. So I cut off very short pieces of stainless steel tube, and I use the Gorilla Grip gel. I like the gel. I can work with the gel rather than the liquid that runs. So we're using our drills over here to drill through, get that hole straight through so that it's right in the centre there when we're going to do these figures. So we've chopped it off, of course, the arm off, and you can see that this one, we turn him around, we've got enough movement there. So that'll be stopped. He's coming back, so we can be waving his arm, and then stop. When he's finished stop, the engineer will stop, and we couple up the cars. Getting back to, you've got the horizontal wire going through, which is showing there. I've got this tube here. Now here's the trick. I've scalloped out that piece of the brass tube that's inside his back. There's two tubes in there. That tube goes on the horizontal wire, and I solder that. When the wire passes through there, I just solder that wire there, so that I'm not getting solder running out the ends there. Just quickly solder that, and that's firm. Onto this piece here, we're going to put a second tube, little tube, brass tube. This is the brass tube I'm talking about. Very small brass tube that the 17 thou wire can get inside that. So what I'm doing with that one there then is we're going to solder another piece of this tube onto this tube, but it's got to be shorter. And I'll grab my pen. So that's the horizontal. Now we've got to look at the vertical. So we've got a vertical wire coming up, and then we bend it at 90 degrees. We make it a little bit longer. And then we slide another piece of smaller brass tube around this. So the brass tube is going to fit around that. And then this, we just bend that a little bit and cut it off, so that tube can rotate on this vertical wire. And then we tin this, and then we solder that onto that, and that gives us what we've got in the back here now. A little brass tube soldered onto the big brass tube that's soldered onto the wire. That gives us the movement. I'll work around here. That gives us the movement. Let's see if I can get that in a bit better here for you. You see that movement there? That's the whole trick to getting a figure to move. Putting a motor on the bottom of this to crank that up and down, that's the easy part. Getting it on the figure. Of course, you've cut out the back of the figure, you've drilled through, you've put a piece of paper over this and just smear some glue around there, leave it overnight, and then you can just sand it back a little bit and it'll blend in. You won't even see that because really you're looking at the front of the figure or side on of the figure to see that he's going to be moving. So that's the trick in getting a figure to work. Where I used to just drill the hole through, the horizontal hole through, I just used the figure metal body. But now I'm putting bearings in this, using the engineering bearings. So I've got stainless steel and I've got nickel silver, so they're compatible with each other, or brass. So yeah, brass is not so good for reliability of these wires, so nickel silver is better if you can get onto that. So that's where we're up to on making the figure there. That's so far. So I hope this helps you guys who want to do this. We don't want anything sticking, so you can either use the greaser graphite powder, and that, the KD, I've got other stuff there. I use a 2B pencil, and this becomes a dry lubricant. So once I go around the area here, I get the dry lubricant all over that there, so it's going to slide. I'm not going to have anything that's going to grab. And you get the idea there. So there's that one, and I'm using I've modified this figure. You've got plastic top, metal bottoms, one plastic arm, one metal arm. It doesn't make any difference once it's painted and it works. That's the main thing. Now we just give this some dry lubricant. And then the old super glue. And if you notice, I've made a slot there with the Dremel, so that the wire comes through. I can bend the slot down. I'll show you what I mean. I just put this Dremel on here, on this carefully. So I've made a slot in there. We can fill that up later. So now he's ready to go. Put this one on. So we just see that he's got both arms. Oh. We'll just see that he's got both arms up in the air. That'll be pretty good. I'll make it about there. Don't need to be directly above his head too much. I'll do about there. And I'll pack that inside there with I use a piece of paper in there to cover that up, that little gap that's in here underneath his arm there. I just use a horseshoe of piece of paper, and one side's glue, the other side has got the pencil graphite on it, and then that's it. So that's working there now. There he is. change that around a little bit more. Anyhow, that's fun. Yeah, just filling up that gap in the back of his arm there. Going to be painted. I usually paint it as a dark colour so it doesn't get seen so much. There's a little bit of paper that I've made there, and I've just gone over one side of it there with the pencil, and the other side we're going to glue in. What we're doing with that is we're putting that in there, and we tuck that in, and we glue it, and we just file off or cut away any excess. So it's filling up that gap in between there, yet the arms will still be able to move. So I haven't glued that there yet, I'm just doing this as a demo. But that's how you can hide this. And like I said, you can see a little bit of colour in there on that one, a bit of dark paint in there, sort of thing there, and that's fine. As long as you don't put it on too thick, it stops the arm from moving. So that'll be the figure. That's just basically showing you how we can make a figure. One arm move or two arm moves, simply by just putting that through there. At the back there, horizontal vertical wire, 2 bits of tube, a couple of little stainless steel bearings either side of it there that make it reliable that it turns, so that the plastic is not going to be gripping onto the horizontal wire, and after a time, heating, cooling, whatever. So that's virtually how you do a figure. Some of the tools you're going to need. This is a set of wire gauge drills. I find that invaluable for when I've got to make the figures, doing stuff. When I'm doing the soldering, I'm using Cars Flux, and that I always do that. I put that on the surface mount leads as well. You're going to need all your little drills, and that your glues, bit of grease, pencils. I use diamond files. I've got that one there that I used to do in the old points on the motor cars, and then I've got another diamond file, smaller one there, and then just your normal files, and your knife blades and trimmers. Getting all your wire and your tube. I use a lot of small brass diameter tube. That's the easiest way to work with, because it's easy to solder, because most of the brass tube I'm soldering to. And then of course you've got your nickel silver wire. I don't use phosphor bronze wire for the figure. That's just a little bit too soft. Nickel silver wire, somewhere 15 to 20 thou, 25 thou maximum. You've got a small range of these things, and your tools. And then of course you need a soldering station, and that my soldering station, I can adjust the temperature on it, and that I don't ever use a wet sponge. That'll kill a soldering iron. Use this curly, use the curly stuff to clean your tip. A nice small tip I use there for surface mount leads as well as just general stuff. So pretty much that's it for tools and your bits and pieces. So there you go. That's the hobby bench where I do all the work, all the files, different things there, Dremels. Having the Dremel tool, that's just fantastic. Lots of Dremel bits for cutting out the back of the figure. I've got a stack of Dremel bits and that in there I'm using. So you give yourself enough tools. It's not expensive to do this. So get the little fella going, and you can have some fun. Cheers.